Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on this Peekaboo butterfly tumbler. As always, we're going to be starting out with a prepped and spray painted base. Any orange or brown or black will work and will be covered entirely by this glitter. And once I've applied my epoxy, I'm going to go in with a hefty coat of Zoinks from Peachy Olive Glitters. I will link the discount code in the description box as usual. Once I've got that glitter applied, I'm going to make sure to pat that down with a gloved hand. This is a very chunky, really hard kind of glitter, so I want to make sure that I'm setting myself up for the best possible scenario once I epoxy, that I'm not going to have to do a million coats to get good coverage. I applied 2 coats of medium viscosity epoxy over this cup. I made sure to sand between the layers. As I mentioned before, this is a very thick glitter, so you want to make sure that you're getting the smoothest coat possible. And then once that second coat is fully cured, I'm going to take this 2-inch painter's tape and I want to rip it in half. I want a very kind of natural rough edge to this, and I'm going to apply it making sure that where the seams meet, it looks seamless. So you want to kind of work it so the edges meet up from both ends of the tape. And then on the bottom portion, I want to make that just a little bit smaller of a piece of tape, because the bigger it's going to be, the more paint it's going to remove once you spray paint and remove it on the bottom of the cup. So I want to make sure that I've got just a little bit smaller piece. We're going to apply that to the bottom, and when I fold it over, I'm going to make sure to take extra care to ensure there's not any kind of creases where you're folding that tape over. You don't want it to look like it's just folded tape. You want it to look like that natural kind of a distressed line. So just make sure you're not getting those little creases and everything is completely laid flat. Any little creases that are lifted, the spray paint's going to seep under that and it's gonna ruin the design. Once I've got the edges marked off, I'm going to put down a decal with the name on it. For the 30-ounce skinnies, I usually cut them at about 4 inches wide. For 20-ounce, I, depending on the font, either do 3 inches wide or 3.5 inches wide for any names, monograms, things like that. If you're not doing a name, you can skip this step. And then I'm going to use this Stencil Vinyl cut out. I got these butterflies from Creative Fabrica and I cut them at 2 inches, 2.5 inches, and 2.75 inches. The 2.75 was way too big, so I would not recommend doing that, and definitely would not recommend doing that for the 20-ounce skinnies. I would stick between 2 and 2.5 inches for all of your sizes. So I cut the stencil vinyl out, and then I also cut the same decals, but the outer edge, what is the word that I'm looking for? The offset maybe, in the textured gold vinyl that I always use. Once I've got the stencil vinyl applied, I'm gonna spray paint the tumbler with black matte spray paint. You can use shiny, it doesn't matter. I just find that anything that's glossy drips a little bit easier than anything matte. And once I've got the spray paint applied and it's dried, I'm gonna make sure to use gloved hands, because any oils transferred to the spray paint before you epoxy it is going to cause fisheyes, and being that it's spray paint, you're not going to be able to wipe that down with rubbing alcohol. Once that paint's applied, it will remove it. So just make sure that you've got either clean hands or gloved hands. I did still get some fish eyes. You'll notice here in this next clip or so that once I apply this next coat of epoxy, there are a few little fish eyes and dimples in this cup. I just coated that with polycrylic and it covered it on my next coat. Alright, so once that epoxy is cured, I'm going to go in with my vinyl work. I always lay down the name first just so I can get a rough idea of where I want to apply the rest of my butterflies. And I cut out some in a silhouette, I cut out some as an offset. I just kind of wanted a variety so it didn't look too busy. So once I get those applied, I am going to put that on my turner, use polycrylic to make sure none of that metallic vinyl is lifting, and then at the same time, after I've got that vinyl coated with polycrylic, I'm going to take my gloved hand and I'm going to apply the polycrylic to the black spaces on the tumbler, because we're going to go back in and put more glitter in those empty spaces just to kind of fill it up a little bit. So we're going to apply that, and then while you've got a wet gloved hand, you're going to put your hand in your glitter shaker and just use your finger to apply little bits of glitter to the epoxy, nope, not to the epoxy, to the polycrylic. And then once that polycrylic dries, it'll automatically adhere that glitter to the tumbler, and once it's dry, you can go in with your 2 final coats of epoxy. If you guys do need a visual of how I apply glitter using polycrylic, I will link my St. Patrick's Day shamrock tutorial in the description as well. I did record that same process in there. It's towards the end of the video, so I'll link that for you guys if you need a visual, but it is pretty simple. Okay, and this tumbler, after 2 final coats, is completely finished. I thought it was pretty neat using this Halloween glitter as kind of a monarch butterfly spring type tumbler, so there is some versatility there in that glitter if you put your mind to it. So I hope you guys love it. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I'll see you next weekend.